Hey there. All right. More people, better. Yeah, sure.
By all means, put the headphones on, and I will wind up your volume.
All right. So Matt Phillips and Andrew Hemingway
Excellent.
joined us. They have their glasses on. They look good.
Porcfest.
Is that where those glasses are from?
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
That's why you're here.
I'm here to promote Porcfest.
Can you find the muffler from that one?
That's right on the floor under the chair.
Sorry.
Little spongy-looking thing. Ta-da.
I'll turn your volume back up afterwards. Okay.
You don't want to hear me heavy breathing?
We don't want to hear this, which we just heard. So,
No, that's only Democrats. Menendez and what was the name of that guy that just got investigated?
Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy?
That guy, Hillary Clinton, yeah. All right, well, Matt, let's talk about Porcfest. Let's go from there.
So Porcfest, this is the 12th annual Porcfest. Porcfest is the Porcupine Freedom Festival. It's the big Free State Project confab up at Rogers Campground in Lancaster, New Hampshire. It's at the last week of June, the 21st through the 28th of June. We're selling tickets here. Just went on sale yesterday. We're almost sold out through the first tranche of tickets. So we're going up to $65, and it goes on up from there. You can buy your tickets online at porcfest.com or here at Liberty Forum. And it's going to be a great year this year. We're expecting to have a huge turnout. Last year we had over 1,500 Liberty folks from all over New Hampshire and all over the nation come check it out. Had a bunch of great speakers. Nick Gillespie from Reason, Patrick Byrne from Overstock.com. We're expecting to have another great lineup this year.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the folks from Reason. I've been a subscriber for probably 20 years now.
Yeah. I went on the Reason cruise a few years back out of Miami and got to hang out with a whole bunch of the regular reporters there, and Matt Welch and Nick, and it was a real fun time.
Did you meet Peter Baggy?
No, he wasn't on the on the trip.
Darn,
No.
that's the cartoonist for Reason. And how about Radley Balco?
Radley was there. Yeah, it was really cool to
the
hang
police
out there.
state investigator.
Yeah. I'd love to get him if you're listening, Radley. Come on up here, and we got some stuff to talk about. So if you're a Free Stater, you definitely come check it out. If you're not a Free Stater but you're curious about all these folks moving into New Hampshire, also come check us out.
Come find out why they're really good people. They just need a little less government to run their lives.
Well, don't we all?
Yes.
Andrew.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing quite well.
I haven't
thank
seen you for a while.
Well, I've been busy.
You've been detoxing after the campaign season.
Well, sort of.
In
I've just been working more covertly.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and which is why he's wearing the shades.
That's right. That's right. Undercover, trying to, Yeah. No, I've been busy. A lot going on.
Undercover,
Anything you can share,
underpaid, overworked.
Is it all undercover? It's all secret.
It's all secret.
Okay, so
top secret stuff.
All right, so we're done with Andrew.
Great
You can tell us anything.
With the shades, they'll never see him coming.
That's right.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for getting us up to date.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to talk about?
Hey, anything you want, man.
Wow. Really?
What's going on in the state?
What do you want to talk about that you can talk about?
Yeah, what have you been observing that you care to mention?
Well, we could talk about the presidential politics if you wanted to. Talk about the people who look likely to run, who I think are coming in here. So now
we've almost lost count.
Here it comes. I think obviously the presidential election is going to start heating up, and I think tomorrow we have Lindsey Graham coming into the state, which I don't know how many people listening to the show are excited about Lindsey Graham.
Sounds of retching from the back of the room.
They would have to be Democrats if they were excited.
I do want to say that from a conservative perspective, we want to encourage Lindsey Graham to run.
Yes, we do.
We would like to see Lindsey and Bush and Christie all split up their vote. That would be a very, very good thing for us.
We would
the
like
tall,
that a lot.
The fat, and the slimy. Yep.
I think the reality is that it's all just sort of for show and to play. I do think it puts Kelly Ayotte in an interesting position if Lindsey Graham were to continue to pursue this.
Because right now, by orders from Gnomeville, she's on board with Jeb Bush. But if one of her sidecar buddies, Lindsey Graham, comes into state, she's kind of obligated to dance with the people that brung her to Washington.
And Steve Dupree is the one who is showing Lindsey Graham around the state.
That's correct. Yes.
Because of his ties with John McCain. So there's some interesting stuff going on there.
Oh, dear me, talk about slime squared.
Yes. So it's
we're going to have to wash the state
be
after they leave.
So I think.
Who was talking about crony capitalism a minute ago? I mean, Aaron. Dear me.
Actually, I have a question for Andrew.
Oh.
Do you have any favorites in this race?
Well, thank you for asking, Skip.
Yes, considering who I just saw you squire into the exhibit hall.
Yes. No, I probably am representative of most of the conservative libertarian, crowd that votes in Republican primaries of being, sort of, undecided on the number of candidates. I think there are probably 4 or 5 that would be, adequate, would be good. But I don't think that there's any one that has completely, really sort of captured it, wrapped it up, and is, sort of moving forward. So, I mean, people like Scott Walker. The truth is, we know that he sort of stood up to the unions, but beyond that, I don't think we know much about him. Was he actually a conservative governor? Not many people can really answer that question. So there's a lot of questions that I think are still remaining on Scott Walker, a guy who was for amnesty about 6 months ago, and then is now said that he changed his mind on it. Different issues like that. Rand Paul, is an interesting guy. Obviously, more libertarian, has some interesting positions and a track record, but again, seems to be trying to pick positions based upon how it's going to affect his presidential outcome more than, principle, I would say at this point. So there's a lot of
So in other words, he's not just slightly different from Ron Paul in how he approaches foreign policy, but he's all finger in the windish.
Well, I think it's more calculated than just finger in the windish, and I don't think that he's necessarily, compromised his principle at this point. But I think that there's definitely his appetite to be president definitely weighs in on sort of what's happening. And the reality is he's not Ron Paul, and so there's a lot of trying to figure out exactly who Rand Paul is for himself. That's occurring. Guys like Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, the list goes on and on and on. Ben Carson, others.
Jim Gilmore was just up here.
Jim Gilmore, Bob Ehrlich. It's like, just keeps going. So all of these guys, we have no idea who they are. They can write their own story at this point, essentially. And we're just going to have to see. I think the most poignant thing that I could say about what's happening is that there is very clearly a consolidation of moderate, establishment candidates to anoint Bush, and we know that the establishment loves to anoint their candidates and kind of force them on us. And so, as conservatives, I think that we really need to consider, the possibility that with so many conservative libertarian candidates running, there's a very real consideration that we may split up our vote to a point where we help to elect a Bush. And I think that that's something that we need to really, consider.
Right. It's a question to do the math. I mean,
Right.
There's 24 candidates out there. There's probably a dozen of those that are mostly conservative, and maybe half a dozen that are absolutely positively rhino progressive, and a few that are in between. And with a dozen running the conservative label and everybody's got their favorites, we're going to have a mathematical problem. And it's about the primary. As I've been quoting Richard Vigory lately, who wrote in his book, "It's the primaries, stupid." We've got to get a good candidate through first.
I could add on to that the famous Southerner, Boss Tweed. He used to say he doesn't care who does the electing as long as he does the nominating, and we saw this reign true very true just recently with the Hong Kong riots, Why were they rioting in Hong Kong? It was because the Chinese government was changing their electoral process to say, we will do the nominating, and then you guys can choose from the two that we put up, but they're going to come from us. This is very similar to what the parties try and do on a consistent basis, what we have seen. The difference between Republicans and Democrats at this point is that Republicans are fighting against it. Republicans are at least willing to say, hey, we're not going to just be sheep and go along with it. So far, we've not seen that from the Democratic side. Hopefully, we can get some of that. But it's the primary still is the very, very critical election. It's the election that counts, and so we've got to figure out how to get a conservative through that.
Right, and first of all, we have to look at them all, shake their hands, shake their opinions, kick the tires, the shins, whatever it is we have to do, and then ultimately we've got to make sure that enough of the people know enough about them that the people can pick wisely.
Yeah, and it's good to see them go through debates. I mean, look at the last cycle, we saw two top contenders in Tim Pawlenty and in Rick Perry burn out literally because of their debate performances. I mean, they were winnowed out from running because of their performances. And so I think that you're going to see that, again, across the board. Let these guys get up. Let them, talk. Let them, talk about their points. Get into some living rooms with some hard questions. Let libertarians at Liberty Forum start to, ask you questions and see how they come down. And by, the fall, I think that people will start to see who are the real ones and who aren't. And, hopefully we can do something about that.
Yeah, I mean, you got a couple of great examples there. Palenti was a nice guy, but he was frankly boring.
But remember that the debate where he was unwilling. It was the week that they that he put out a press release and a video called what he called it Oromnicare. I think it was what it was. Obamnicare. Obamnicare.
Yeah.
And it was great. And everybody was all excited about it. They're like, yes, finally, someone's going to hit Romney on this. Obamnicare. He gets to the debate that week, and I think it was Wolf Blitzer said, so are you willing on stage to call it Obamnicare right in front of Mitt Romney? And he looks over at Mitt, and Mitt's just staring there, looking at him. He goes, well, I don't want to, right back steps it, walks it all the way back. That was the end of his campaign. It was over. He literally could have landed a punch by simply saying, yeah, Mitt Romney designed this plan. It's that simple, right? Even Obama says that. It would have been so easy. It's obvious. Tim Pawlenty would have been a front runner at that point. He would have been the alternative to Mitt Romney. It would have launched his career. Instead, he backs away, cowardly, and everybody says, "Oh, he's not willing to throw a punch. Why are we going to go with him?"
And then there was the Iowa straw poll, which I'm trying to remember who won it.
Michelle Bachmann.
It was Bachmann. She burned out her campaign war chest on that.
Yeah.
And then the very next day, Perry puts on his cowboy boots and jumps onto the stage at her next venue, and she throws a hissy fit and won't get out of the car.
Right.
And she lost right at that point.
Right.
Perry's problem was he was getting over back surgery, and it dogged him for most of the campaign trail. If that guy could have stood up and remembered all the government agencies he wanted to shut down, he'd have knocked Romney off the stage.
And in all fairness, there are a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to remember all of them.
It's true. But as a point to that, we just talked about all presidential potential candidates. This is the first time someone's mentioned Rick Perry, right? Like the former governor of Texas, a very a successful governorship, very, very successful. How are we not talking about this guy? How is it that Ben Carson ranks higher than the former governor of Texas with a proven track record of executive experience, leadership, doing the right things, jury reform, bringing businesses into his state? Yet, we're not even talking about him.
Triumph of hope over experience every time. We went for an untested last time. Mama and I supported Herman Cain to the bitter end because we really think he's a wonderful man, and he was most determined to put government back in its box. But, looking realistically, you look at people like Herman, even to an even greater extent, people like Ben Carson, who's never been anywhere near politics. Herman at least been in front of the people a lot on his radio show. And was willing to have been to rallies for other causes long before he got into the presidential race. Ben Carson came out of nowhere. He's a really nice guy. He's smart. He's a conservative. But how do you get from that to being president in one jump? I just don't think you can. And yeah, as you say, it's remarkable. Governor of a successful state governor. Why was he not immediately the front runner? I think at least partly because his campaign last time imploded rather unfortunately because he was basically worn down by a combination of pain and pain meds.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a whole lot different this time if people are willing to listen. But I'm looking, I think, for a governor. There are some very, very bright senators out there, very conservative senators, but I think I'm looking for a governor this time because something that Perry said does actually resonate, and he wasn't necessarily zinging Cruz or Rubio. He said, after the recent experience, do the people want another first-term untested senator for president? And the answer is probably not.
So let me ask you a question. Do you want a governor because, I'm guessing, and you can tell me if I'm right, a governor because of their executive level experience, is that correct?
Because running a state with its usually two houses of legislature is the nearest thing to preparing for the presidency that you're ever going to get.
Okay. I think that there is an interesting dynamic occurring in this race, and that is the coming or the ascendancy of Carly Fiorina, and here's why. She's obviously the only woman in the race, which makes
you're not counting Hillary as a woman.
I mean, in the Republican primary.
Well, remember, we were talking about that guy Hillary earlier.
Yeah, we were.
Republican primary.
Yeah.
So she's the only woman in the race, but also, she's the only candidate in the race with real corporate level business experience. There is no one else in this race who has executed at that level. So as the CEO of Hewlett Packard, she took over. The company was a $45 billion company. When she left, it was over $90 billion. So there's a very interesting case to be made with, for instance, Scott Walker, who has not done anything in the private sector world to date, has been in politics for his entire life. Same thing with a guy like, you can name them off. I mean, Jeb Bush, your list goes on and on. Chris Christie, these guys. So she's also going to be bringing the private sector experience, and that was displayed at CPAC. There was a meeting, and someone asked her, "How do we deal with China?" And what's interesting is she can say, "You know what? I've actually sat down across from the emperor, royalty in China. We've actually negotiated trade deals. I actually know what motivates these people. I've been there. I've done that." Wisconsin has a budget of around $38 billion. Yeah. She's managed a budget of over $45 billion, $90 billion. So, I wonder about this executive experience thing, saying, well, you're coming out of the private sector. She is at a different level than even a Mitt Romney. I mean, Mitt Romney never ran a $90 billion publicly traded corporation.
You're absolutely right, and it's very interesting. And by the way, Hannity interviewed a few people at CPAC last week, and he interviewed Trump, and the same kind of questions about China, as he puts it, were made. That he's been there, he's done business, he's outsmarted these people because he's Trump. He's done deals. And he's right. The only thing I'd ask you about Carly Fiorina, and without a doubt, she makes a very good showing on the stage, and I think she'd make mincemeat of Hillary in a debate and wouldn't have to fear because she's a woman. But ask the people in high tech that have worked for her. You'll get a very negative impression right away. She's not liked in the industry.
Well, sure. I mean, we can talk about that, but people in Florida don't like Jeb Bush either. I mean, it's one thing to be the CEO where your sole purpose is to drive for profits, right, and to please the stockholders. And I'd say in that instance, going from 45 to 90 billion, stockholders were relatively fairly happy with what she was able to do. Yeah. She generated a very good return for them. I wouldn't, there's probably, there's all sorts of ins and outs of all of those things. But I think taking her perspective is going to be one that could be that will be very, very unique in this race.
Got about a minute left.
I don't doubt it, Andrew, and I certainly look forward to hearing her debate some of the others, to debate some of the governors. When you look at some of the other folks, you made the point about Scott Walker, but many of the senators and others that are in these races have basically been government employees since they left school.
Yes.
It was one of the problems that Marilinda Garcia ran into. It's
Yes.
like, okay, you went from school to government.
Right.
What else have you done?
Right.
Which was unfortunate. I think
Marco, Ted Cruz, all these guys. I mean, really. I mean, they were, and I don't. Maybe you guys do, but I don't count. Going to law school and running a law practice for 5 years being. I mean, sure, it's private sector experience, but I mean, it's like, it's not.
A law practice isn't running a business.
Right.
Not the same way. Not unless you're the CEO of a really big law firm. It's running an actual industry, a big corporation with lots of committees and lots of decisions to be made. Yes, that's a preparation. It's one of the things we liked about Herman Cain. It's it's the thing that I generally like about governors, especially governors that have not been 100% in government their entire lives.
Right. Right.
He's got the microphones.
Skip,
I can't stop him.
Skip, can you pan a little bit? Can you pan so Rick's on the picture?
Hey, as I was listening to you talk about what presidents, what your qualifications for a president you perceive to be,
Yeah.
I said, well, gee, let's go back and look at what the prior occupations of our former presidents were. Listening to Andrew talk, we look at George Washington. He was a land surveyor, he was a farmer, plantation owner, and then finally a general of the United Army of the Colonies. Thomas Jefferson, lawyer, land surveyor, writer, inventor, lawyer. James Madison, farmer, plantation owner. I think, going back to Ben Carson, running, I think we've fallen into a trap in society where we have professional retail politicians being viewed as qualified to run for public office.
Yeah, your qualification to run for president is that you were a senator.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't make you qualified.
Nor
how
a
is that-
governor.
Right.
I mean, look at Clinton. Oh, my God.
Right. Well,
he reaped the benefits of the contract with America, and everybody thinks he's a hero.
Right. Right. I absolutely agree. And you know what? That's a lie perpetuated by the media, by the national liberal media, who will just keep putting it forward. But I don't know. She's never won a race before, so I don't know how she can run for president. Or he's never run for public office. I don't know how. It's like, well, yeah, we can. I mean, because that's the way our system has been created. It allows people, and I think it's designed to allow people to get out of their farms, right, and to go and to have a voice in the public square, and then to go back home when their term is done. That is what ultimately I think what we need.
Well, let's look at Ronald Reagan, actor and broadcaster, president of the Screen Actors Guild.
And governor.
Right, correct. I mean, he was a governor in California when I was a kid. But, he didn't jump on the presidential bandwagon immediately thereafter, now did he?
No.
No. I mean, California wasn't the toilet then that it is now either.
No.
It's quite a different toilet now.
Yes, it's a toilet, no doubt. But
the giant sucking sound at the border seems to have reversed.
All right, we got to wrap things up because we need to get out of here. Mm-hmm. Closing remarks?
Well, going back to Chris Christie running in the state of New Hampshire, if he jumps into the race, think of all the buffet restaurants that are going to pop up. Somebody asked me if we hosted Rand Paul out at the Londonderry Fish and Game Club, and they asked me if we were hosting Christie. I said, well, no, because we have a rule, only one guy to a pair of pants. So, but okay, there's my shtick for the day. So I'm done.
All right, stick away. All right, well, thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in to GrokTALK and spending the day with us. We're going to, wait, I'll find some music to close out the show. You got that microphone under control over there?
Yeah, let me turn the microphones down and the music up.
Okay,
Go for it.
You can turn it up gradually for a couple seconds there. We'll play a little bit of music and some relaxing tunes, and we'll be back next week in the studio in Concord with more guests, more politics, more opinion, and more GrokTALK.
Grok TV.